2 days ago we reported, based on a Nation Thailand story, that Thai Airways is planning to buy 20 to 30 planes in the next 4 years to allegedly strengthen its fleet and replace sold and decommissioned planes. In the original story, the company expected the world's airline industry to recover from the fallout of COVID-19 by 2025. As part of the National Airlines rehabilitation plan being submitted to the bankruptcy court on March 2, the airline planned to purchase some new equipment, subject to approval by its creditors, of course. As a bit of background, this is Thai Airways' current fleet.
Our Royal Orchid Service, flight TG606 bound from Hong Kong.
But just a few days later, again speaking to Nation Thailand, Thai Airways acting president said that there were no such plans to purchase new planes. He said, should demand increase, the carrier would instead look at leasing options. Going back to last November, Thai Airways decided to sell 34 of its passenger planes, including the evergreen Queen of the Skies, the Boeing 747-400s and 777-300s, to kick the bankruptcy can down the road. Selling all 34 planes could have brought in around 100 billion baht, but at the moment the planes have been difficult to shift when almost all airlines are shedding their old fleet at the same time. Speaking about the new planes, the acting president said, there is a rumour that Thai Airways would submit a plan to buy new planes along with the company's business rehabilitation plan to the Central Bankruptcy Court on March 2, but this is not true. He also noted that indeed the company remains committed to downsizing its fleet over the next 5 years. It also aims to reduce maintenance costs to only necessary levels, identify new revenue streams and increase administrative efficiency. The sort of things that you'd say when you're about to face a bankruptcy court. But he went on to say that Thailand's legacy airline did not rule out that different planes could join the Thai fleet in a not too distant future. He said if air travel demand recovers and continues to increase, the carrier's strategic committee would estimate long and medium term needs, potentially acquiring additional planes based on cost effectiveness. Now, Simple Flying is reporting that the airline could be retiring even more planes, with neither the Boeing 747s, A380s nor A330s ever returning to service, the latter being the bastion of its long-haul services. But the Thai Airways planes, although obviously the big ticket items in the bankruptcy hearings, are just a part of the overall plan. As well as selling off aircraft, the plan includes the layoff of 395 additional pilots. Since entering bankruptcy protection in May 2020, just weeks after being forced to ground its entire fleet, the airline's cut over 6,000 jobs. That's about 30% of its workforce. Another 240 executive positions are also being culled. To get to this situation, the Thai government cut off the annual lifeline that had thrown cash into the faltering airline for over a decade. Every year, the Thai taxpayers were having to bail out the carrier that was digging deeper and deeper into a well of annual deficits. Years of scandal, corruption and mismanagement finally caught up with the national carrier, and this time the Thai government realised enough was enough. They sold down their majority shareholding, but after defaulting on debts last summer, the airline has now made some progress renegotiating deals with lessors and creditors. If Thai Airways is to take to the skies again, even as the coronavirus pandemic fades, it will be a very different airline than it was in the past. Much of the cushy executive perks and equally cushy senior staff contracts will be gone. Its fleet will be massively smaller and its routes will be slashed, only flying to profitable destinations. Assuming the March 2 submission of its rehabilitation plan is accepted, the remnants of Thai Airways still have a very difficult path ahead. Apart from the very physical changes that have been forced on the airline, an entire culture of corruption, jobs for the boys, and poor business decisions will be the biggest challenge. Locally, some of the so-called budget carriers are showing the way, being able to eke out a living with only domestic traffic and savvy decision making. And if Thai Airways survives the pandemic, it will come back as a very stripped back shell of its former self. And without the bottomless pit of government bailouts to fall back on, will be forced to face up to the realities of a cutthroat world aviation industry. The airline will have to do a lot more than putting on its seatbelt and stowing the tray table to avoid a lot of very rough turbulence ahead. Tim Newton, reporting for the Thaiger.